This guy is, he's got grit and tenacity, and I think that's one thing that can't be taught so much when we go through classes that we provide here in the building or things like WBCNA. He's just got that it factor about entrepreneur that can't be taught. You know, and sometimes we go through and we just look at people and know that they got what it takes to make it. So without any further rambling of my own self, Clay Hinchman, CEO of USI.
Thank you. Everybody situated? Can you hear me all right? I don't like using the microphone machine here too much. So I want to start off upcoming in the next couple of weeks. There's a holiday, right? I think coming up. Everybody know what it is? May 10th. Mother's Day. Right. It's funny. I always like to tell a story. I remember 7 years ago, I called my mother. I was deployed. I was an infantry officer. I served on a Special Operations Task Force 17. My job was to kill or capture Al-Qaeda in Iraq. So I got a free moment to call my mother from Baghdad and to wish her happy Mother's Day. But the funny thing about it is 12 hours earlier, I had stepped on a pressure wire IED connected to a 122 millimeter mortar round, and I subsequently lost my right leg above the knee out of those shrapnel wounds, and partially deaf, which is why I have hearing aids. So it was funny, but I called my mother and told her, hey, happy Mother's Day, and oh, by the way, I'm still alive, but I left a piece of the body that you gave me in Iraq. And so I always try to tell that story up front because, I think being a veteran in today's Army, that day significantly changed my life, right? I mean, it's pretty simple. I was a hard charging infantry officer. I was an airborne ranger. I'm a West Point grad, and you kind of think you're indestructible at 25 years old, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, you get checked in the face, and God kind of puts you on a different path. But having said that, there's two words when I lived in DC going through Walter Reed, two words that I really can't stand, and I hope I don't offend anybody, is the words wounded warriors. I can't stand those words. I can't stand them. Not to take away from all the great veteran services organizations that are out there, but I'm an airborne ranger, I'm an infantry officer. I just happen to be wounded. And when I was at Walter Reed, I tried to spread that message because I met a lot of young sailors, Marines, and airmen who were wounded, and when they were labeled wounded warriors, that became that definition of them as a person, as a woman or a man, that defined them for the rest of their lives. And that created, I guess, a barrier for them to continue the rest of their lives. And so I say that, and I hope, like I said, I don't offend anyone. The Wounded Warrior Project, great organization, a lot of great veterans organizations, but I think that if you use it as a political ploy, you take away from the individual sacrifice that each woman and man has made for this country, and that's why I say that. But along with the Wounded Warrior piece, there's kind of an epidemic in our country right now that I kind of see, and you don't have to agree with me, but there's this, it's kind of a new dance move that my generation, I guess, of veterans is making, and it's like this. Yep. It's this. This is what it is. And when you use those words, you create this of entitlement, and you owe me. I served in the professional Army. I volunteered. You don't owe me anything. I served the country. I sacrificed because if you open up my veins, you're going to see freedom in red, white, and blue. It's pretty simple. Just like every other veteran who served. It may sound terrible, but it's simple to me. I served because I wanted to, because it was the right thing to do. And so I try to tell these young people, when you're getting past that point in your life, it's so much more impactful than having this and turning it into this. I don't need a handout. I need an introduction. I need an opportunity, right? And if we can get our young veterans to change that mentality of this into this, help me get an introduction. Don't hand me something. I'm not entitled to anything. I just need the opportunity to perform. And I think I was given that, when I went through Walter Reed, there was a gentleman named Bob Nielsen who taught an entrepreneurial course, and he would ask you questions. why not go into construction? Why not do this? Why not do that? And I was going, I'm an infantry guy. And I was a Ranger Honor graduate. You know, I was lucky when I was a young man. I liked being in the dirt and the mud, and I kind of felt that's what God put me here to do. You know, I enjoyed being deployed. I had a Special Forces selection date. It is what I enjoyed doing, meeting the enemies of our country on a distant battlefield. I just thought that's what I was put here to do. And now, I can't really do that anymore. So you kind of have this transition period, right? And everybody goes through a transition period that I went through. But it's funny to me, when I met Lance, we were talking. I hear many people, oh, it's so different. It's such a cultural change. Being an entrepreneur, a veteran entrepreneur, is so different than being in the military. And it's complete and utter nonsense. The same principles that drove me in the military are the same principles that drive me as a private business owner, or as a team member of a private business or of a government organization. Integrity, determination, and accountability. Simple. My life is simple. Integrity, determination, and accountability. And I know what the mission is. I know what the end state is, right? If I'm in the military, it's to take over a battle space, you know, support the people of that area and kill bad guys, or, you know, put them away so they can't hurt those people, right? Protect America. In the private industry, the objective is to increase revenues, right? To employ more people, right? It's simple to me. Like, I'm a simpleton. I'm not that smart of a guy, right? So I know what the mission is. Well, now I have to back plan to figure out all the moving pieces to figure out where I want to go. It's not, you know, life's not too difficult. And along with those principles, the biggest thing that I always ask entrepreneurs is, how do you create a culture? You know, culture is this big word that everybody talks about. And I think that veterans are great at that. You know, it's just my opinion. But I also think private industry is excellent as well. Because if you can create a culture of trust and transparency, I think you can be extremely successful in anything you do, right? So that kind of helped me from my experience. And the bottom line is here for a lot of the veterans, you know, anybody who may have transitioned or recently transitioning, you know, it takes a while to transition, but it's a hard realization. You realize how hard private business industry people work, right? In the military and the government world, I was at work at 6 until 9 at night. That doesn't mean you were really working hard that entire time. And I can tell you that from being a young man, I grew up in South Texas, had a divorced mother when I was very young, had a great stepdad, my dad, he raised me, and then going to West Point, going to Ranger School, you know, playing rugby, get beat up, going to combat, and now being an entrepreneur. The most stressful time in my life is being a small business entrepreneur. I'm not joking with this. Combat, 95% of the time, as many of you may know, is pretty boring, 95% of the time. Now there's 5%, it's pretty exciting. It's pretty good, but you got to be on your game. But you know, that 95% is kind of boring. As an entrepreneur, that culture that I was talking about, you know, in the military, 24/7, my soldiers responded to me and my platoon sergeant, my company commander, my first sergeant in the Army. It's the same thing in private industry, being an entrepreneur. I am responsible for my teammates, 24/7. Now, they may not call me at 3 in the morning with a DUI or something on a Sunday, which is, you know, probably many of us leaders got. But I do know that if I fire them, I've affected their life for a long time. I understand that if I give them benefits, their home life is better. If they have Blue Cross Blue Shield premium package, right, which is what my team has, I'm investing more in them. If I'm giving them annual certifications, which is what USI does, I differentiate myself between the competition because in the military I knew I had to be trained to the max, right? We're trained full tilt. That's why America's the strongest army. Well, in private industry, I budget to pay for all my people to get annual certifications in IT. We're an IT and engineering firm, right? It's not that too difficult of a transition for me, or it wasn't for me. It just made sense. Being a small business owner as well, and being a veteran too, you know, I've been asked many times about resiliency. I don't know how to spell that word. I think there's a C in there somewhere. I don't know. But what I mean by that is I'm not resilient. I'm me. I'm Clayton. This is who I was 10 years from now. This is who I'll be 10 years, or 10 years ago and 10 years from now. I'm the same person. I just happen to walk with a limp and put a bigger shoe on than I did 7 years ago. So I'm the same person, and I have those same principles that I've always lived my life by. I work hard, I play hard, I have integrity, and I'm honest. But there was one thing that I realized about myself serving in combat, and then having an employee who tried to extort me a year ago that said, if you don't do this, you're going to have a hard time doing this with a potential client. That I am a complete and utter savage, right? And what I mean by that is that I am a barbarian and I am a survivor, bottom line. Because in the military, I had this family culture to protect the men and women that served with me, right? And I'm a savage because we will survive within ethical and moral bounds, right? So I'm not a crazy person. So we set these ethical and moral bounds, and we will do whatever it takes to win to survive, right? In my company now, I think we have such a culture where there's trust and transparency that if you attack us, my family will take care of each other to the nth degree. And I think that's from top to bottom. And I'm hoping that I am setting the right example for everyone else in my organization. So I'm an ethical savage, if you will. But like I said, with that, it's pretty simple. It's being that savage, that ethical savage, is never quitting and doing whatever it takes to get the job done. I think that even though I have on quasi-suit, no tie, but if you told me that my team had to dig a hole to China with no shovels in our bare hands, and it meant the security of the nation, I'd do it. I'd figure out a way. And that's what I mean by that. And I hope that the culture that we've set in my organization would help me dig that hole, right? And if they didn't, we'd leave them behind because they're not a part of our family. The other thing with that too is that being patient, being a veteran, one of the things I had to learn in the Army, I was taught, what's the patent quote? In the absence of orders, do something, or shoot something, whatever it is. You have to go right or left. Well, I had to learn to be patient as an entrepreneur, because sometimes I have to throw the ball into a client's court or throw it into a partner's court and sit and wait and be very patient. And I don't know if you can tell from the short time that I've been talking that it's not me. I am not that way. And I've had to work very hard of commiserating with others to get better at that, to be respectful and cautious. Because I am this savage who wants to win and move forward, I can leave people behind without respecting their feelings. And now I've ruined the culture, right? So if you see that paradigm, so I have to know who I am. The other thing about being an entrepreneur, pretty simple, having great mentors. I mentioned the gentleman Bob Nielsen. I mentioned some other folks that Sloan Gibson was a gentleman at the USO, was just a great mentor and role model to me. He's now the Deputy Secretary of the VA. Hopefully he's getting that thing straightened out. But when I transitioned, he said a lot of things that just made me go, wow, I got to do some of that stuff. That's really smart. And I need to be a better person. So I found mentors, and I reached out to people. If you want to be an entrepreneur, one of the things I've learned not too long ago is that if you find a mentor, there are folks that have so much money, they're more worried about their legacy than making more money. And so if you walk in with the right attitude, not this, with this, and with your chest out, say, I'm strong, but I want to learn because I want to be like you, those people will pass on that information. So if you want to go into real estate, you want to call Donald Trump, as I told you, my motto is, I never ask myself why. Why not? What's the worst they can do is say no? And I think you have to have that attitude as an entrepreneur. I've made millions and millions of pitches, and I've had thousands of doors, millions and millions of doors shut in my face. And I got to tell you, none of them bothered me because I took all of them as an opportunity to learn and get better. And if you don't look at it that way, then you probably shouldn't be an entrepreneur, I don't think. If you have feelings as an entrepreneur, you should probably get rid of it. the other thing about role models, for me as a young man, I mentioned my dad, Gary Cooper, and my grandfather was a gentleman named Obert Aga, Navy enlisted men in World War II, served in the USS Cleveland. Were role models for me. My stepfather and step-grandfather, but they raised me, were strong male role models for me. So when I was wounded, being wounded was easy. And I can remember calling them from Walter Reed, crying and saying, thank you, because they weren't feelings guys. They weren't. They went to work and they provided for our families. And it was remarkable for me because you have two gentlemen, we weren't biological, but they made a culture of my own family and they created a family. And so being wounded to me was pretty easy. It was now a part of life. If you have faith and you accept things, you just move on to the next level. And so that for me was easy. The one thing, I've spoken to some veterans before, and I'm not as empathetic as I probably could be, but if you have this attitude all the time, you don't take any ownership for yourself. And veterans or entrepreneurs in general, there are tons of things that I'm still a failure at, that I am trying to get better at, right? So, especially as veterans, you get out of the military, talking about how private industry people work so very hard, and they really do. For the veterans in the crowd, I say it's on you to retrain yourself. If you know young people who are getting out of the military and they tell you what a great leader they are, but if they can't walk in and talk to a business owner or a small business entrepreneur and talk about a return on investment that I'm going to make with you, either through increased performance, or through revenue that you can generate, and you don't understand P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, I can't bring you into my family because you're just not going to be value added for us. But there are so many great organizations, and I say that because there's so many great organizations still serving veterans. The Women's Business Center. You have the post 9/11 GI Bill. We have the VA education grants. Young veterans have all of these opportunities, especially in a place like Huntsville. But I know California. There's a lot of other great places. Texas. In the Army, I learned that the NCOs are the backbone of the Army. Right? We all heard this, or you hear this. But I can guarantee you, and I know for a fact, and you can't argue with that with me, is that the community that supports the military is the backbone of the country, right? And so, especially in Huntsville and these great geographic locations, you have people that want to help you, but they're more willing to help you if you walk in with the handshake and say, "This is who I am. This is what I've done to make myself better. I need your help to make an introduction and to give me the opportunity to perform." But if you walk in with this, right, any other business owners in the crowd, you know what I'm talking about. But my role changed too. My last points here is that when I was at Walter Reed, I went to Georgetown and got my master's in policy because I thought I'd be a senator one day. Terrible idea, I know. And I said, I'm passionate about the country. I want to continue to serve. And then I realized that over time, when I worked in DC, that I could be more impactful at the local level in supporting veterans and veteran issues, service members and their families, more importantly, families, by starting a company and employing veterans. That to me was more impactful, right? I don't want to shotgun blast and say I got $3 million for wounded vets or $300 million and I don't know the performance metrics on that. But I can start a company and I can hire 20 veterans and I know that I've changed 20 people's lives, right? And I can look at my two daughters in the face and say, Daddy made this country a little bit better. I'm not that fantastic, but I made it a little bit better because at least I tried, right? When I tell you all these things I've done, and I only have one fear in life, and I'm 32 years old, but I have the same fear that I had when I was 10 years old, and that is to not be an old man who lives with regret. Regret to me is the scariest thing in the world. You can see it in somebody's eyes when you ask them a question and they have regret. They have it in their eyes. You can see it on them. You can see it. And I met people when I was young that had that. And I met people as I went through the Army they always had an excuse of why things didn't work out for them. And like I said, I just never wanted to be that person. I said, I'll try it, you know? Why not? I'll give it a shot. You want to go to West Point? Why not? Want to be a ranger? Yeah, why not? You want to volunteer, which my wife was mad at me. You want to volunteer to be on a special operations task force? Yeah, why not? You know? And my wife makes fun of me, you know, because I was just the fattest one to step on this IED, right? And it went off. But, you know, it's all worked out, and I'm a better person for it. So, the last thing I'll say is that, with the regrets too, is I kind of also have this internal motivation of, do you have any veterans and people? We all know people that we've lost, right? Had a lot of good friends that unfortunately have passed on to the other side. And if I didn't have that no fear mentality, I should have died on May 10th, 2008. That's how I feel. Because I don't let that day define me. Because I know if my friends were here and they hadn't passed on, they would be doing a better job than I am. So I work every day to get better at what I'm doing. And I have this stupid rule. Every day I want to get 5 minutes better at my job, which equates to 25 minutes at the end of the week, which through 50 weeks, because I'll take some time off, 50 weeks throughout the year, I really turn into 21 days roughly, 21 full days that I've gotten better. So every year I get almost a full work month better at what I do. So when you see me next year, my 5 by 5 by 50 rule, I'm going to be a month better. And so I'm hoping other entrepreneurs aren't listening to this, because I'm going to continue to get better. I'll push my team to get better, right? And as we do that, that's how you grow a successful company, I think, or we're hoping. The last thing, you know, I'll say is that, you know, May 10th is my birthday. I'll be 7 years old, and I always say something, you know, and I hope y'all bear with me, but you know, it's very intimate for me, getting blown up, whatever. But I always say to those that we honor those who come before us, we celebrate the sacrifice of those currently serving, and we pray that we set the right example for our young people to follow. And with that being said, my last piece of advice is life is real simple. Work hard and never ever quit, and that's it. So, any questions? Or